What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for February 7th, 2022. There is a roadmap update this week that has the community up in arms, and an actual updated progress tracker, or by its proper name, the monthly report. We're going to go over that, and a detailed look into refueling. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And if this is your first Week in Review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news, put it into one video, and throw my opinions in there as well, whether you like them or not. I also do live stream on twitch.tv/SaltEMike every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So stop by, say hello, let me know what you think about the videos and stuff like that. I also do have a second channel where we post live stream reactions to things like the roadmap review and other things like ISC, stuff like that. Now, let's get into the actual updates, and we're going to start out with Roadmap Roundup. But first, again, I will ask you to go check out my full review on my second channel, because it's a line-by-line going through the Roadmap Roundup thing, and again, link will be in the description there, probably right at the top, and I'm just going to touch on a few points here that I think are important for the length, like for the sake of the length of the episode today. So we're going to start out with progress and what they mean by that, and they pretty much started out with the fact that they want to force us to focus more on their progress in the progress tracker. And I'm not sure what progress this is that they're kind of showing here, because what I see is a schedule for some developers. Like, in no way does it show how well they progressed on a feature, just that they scheduled out some work for them to do and that they're working on it. Release view. I think this was always a really bad way to do things, how they did it in the past, showing a year out of their plans. There's going to be a lot of quotations today, because every single backer member of the company, everybody knew that most of these features would not hit. So why would you put them there? It just is generally idiotic to do it, so they removed it, which is generally not idiotic. So that's just how I look at it. But they admit that they used this view for marketing purposes. And I'll touch more on that in a moment. But I personally, again, think this is a good thing. Most games share what they're working on in their next patch, whether it's exciting or not. Some features are exciting, some features are not. But most game companies are like, this is our next patch. This is the details of what's going to be in it. That's what CIG is doing now. It's a way of managing expectations, but it's also just a way of doing whatever every other game company does and not trying to be different for the sake of being different, and not utilizing it for the sake of ship sales. So for me, removing their self-admitted BS plans cannot be viewed as a bad thing, unless you are trying to hold them accountable. There have been a few moments in the past where we, the community, actually did. Namely, the $20 We Think CitizenCon has the same value as BlizzCon. like it doesn't. So we held them accountable for that. You know, and in general, 4 years later from that moment of $20 for CitizenCon, the game mostly is the same, because the core foundational features like server meshing, persistence, things like that, still no economy, right? Don't exist. They're not in the game. They're still being worked on. We're working on it. You know, the same thing. It's not in the game, so they really haven't delivered anything, while Blizzard, you know, as bad or good that you think those games are, have delivered many things. Another one was the Squadron 42 update, and look at what we got there. A totally, like, tone-deaf update of a satellite. There's no accountability, guys, with a company that built their funding model around avoiding it. You will never be able to hold this company accountable for their funding model, for anything of the sort. The best we can do is just give feedback on the infant-level systems that they put in the game right now and try to improve the current player experience as best we can. That's just how I view this. Will I get annoyed? Yes. Will I get mad about something in the future? Yes, of course. Will I make a video about it? Absolutely. But it's not because I think that video will do anything of holding them accountable, other than it's just an outlet for me to express my feelings. For me. CIG never had accountability and never will. So if you think them showing their year-out fake marketing plans is a way to hold them accountable, You did. You did. They stopped doing it. The tone. We touched on what I think are more of the important things, their actions. Now let's touch on the tone. It was absolute trash. I have such low expectations for every update, and yet they still managed to disappoint. They blame their community for being excited about something, and then disappointed when they don't deliver. If it was like every once in a while, okay, you know. But every single quarter, that's on you, CIG, not any of us. But now let's get to what's been on screen for the last minute or so. This is an insane statement. But there still remains a very loud contingent of roadmap watchers who see projections as promises, and their continued noise every time we shift deliverables has become a distraction both internally at CIG and within our community, as well as to prospective Star Citizen fans watching from the sidelines at our open development communications. This basically proves that they are mad that the roadmap was used to make new players, to market to new players. And any noise that we make because CIG hasn't delivered on nearly any tangible progress towards a finished, released, what Star Citizen should look like product in years is somehow the noise is the issue for prospective new backers. Not that the fact that they've made zero progress on tangible things that most gamers are interested in. Progression. No bugs. Persistence. Decent frame rates. That's why you don't have new prospective backers, guys. Not because of noise. And the noise is a result of those things. By the way, Star Citizen, you are a very pretty experience, but you are a joke of a game. Everybody knows it, okay? The roadmap watchers are not your problem. You are your own problem. You have not only yourself, but your marketing team to blame for pushing a false narrative on what a patch may look like every quarter for all these years. I hope this roadmap update is the actual start of change to this, but I don't expect much. So now let's get into the actual roadmap updates for Roadmap Roundup, which we have a number of 3.17 cards removed, surprise, surprise. Player interaction experience, which is a massive quality of life thing that is not a good thing to see being removed. FPS radar and scanning, if you were getting sniped at Jumptown, you would know how important this may be. Hacking, a lot of people were looking forward to this, as was I, but, you know, it is what it is. Sometimes things fall off. I'm not going to get too crazy upset about something like that. EVA Tier 2 and 0G push and pull. EVA is kind of rough, but passable for now, and same with the 0G stuff, so I kind of just think that that's not too much of a loss, but it is what it is. Now, cargo refactor being at risk here. This is my understanding that persistent hangars and the hangar manager app would obviously go hand in hand, but they also go hand in hand with the cargo refactor. So if they are at risk, why isn't the cargo refactor at risk? Are they doing the same things with the progress tracker that they were doing with the roadmap originally? I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. But this one is the scariest of all the updates to me. And then the less important delays are the things that fall under that they need more polish. Misc Hull C, Taxi NPC missions, and Pirate Vandal Swarm improvements. Now, for now, we still, again, see the cargo refactor and selling still on the roadmap, but I don't have my hopes up. So major updates for the next two patches are still there, but we still have many weeks to go before they're in. The coffee vendor was added to 3.17, so after everything got removed, the only thing that was added was this. They never fail to see how stupid they look, I don't think, when they do stuff like that. Now, things that were added to the progress tracker are usually things that are much further off. The Argo SRV, hospital surgeon, and meshing-related items, so I think that these are more important to get into, are things like this. So what would be described as server meshing is obviously not just one task. This appears to be a few of them. So long-term persistence, crash recovery, and taking SSOCS and bringing it into the new system is big. Yeah, the Argo SRV, I do actually want to go back to, I'll put it back up on the screen, is that I think this is important only because it could be the catalyst for not just creating the prop of a ship tractor beam, but actually making it a feature that's in the game. And they also showed like a spider miner from Squadron 42, and then the hospital surgeon one. I just glanced over. Again, this is just AI stuff. I don't think we're going to see any use to these characters while our servers are this bad. And then they showed a military version. They didn't show it. They talked about it making a military version of the multi-tool. So again, Squadron 42 stuff, kind of whatever. Then they showed a wheeled vehicle rework, which could get better for sure. Reputation V2, which is I'm really excited about because it has rep driving AI hostility. So the situation that I think of is lawful players constantly go to Grimhex. You may not be able to in the future based on your reputation, and I think that that's kind of cool and makes certain pockets and like regions of a certain system, which is pretty cool. They talked about some iTech thing as well. And then Bounty Hunter V2, it's basically back after being removed, but it should make the current system better. If only they knew that all they had to do was remove the Alt F4 ability to just not get bountied, which is, you know, the worst thing about the system currently. And they also did a repeat of what we already know about the persistent hangers. So, now moving on to the monthly report. If you want to see actual progress on Star Citizen, this is where you would go. This is the place to look. They are starting to like, this is the progress tracker, nowhere else. They're starting to add AI planetary navigation. This is the first one with AI tech, and it is in designers' hands. To me, this means they are looking for ways to make missions out of it. The last paragraph here tells all the ability to not just see landing zones and stuff to feel more alive, but actually use the NPCs in and around planets. Good luck with our server tick rate, obviously, but work like this is essential if it ever does improve. Not shown on the screen, they're also working on them pushing like trolleys and avoiding getting stuck indoors and corridors, which if you ever play the game, you know is a problem. Animation. The coffee vendor, everyone's favorite meme right now, is being worked on, and improvements to face animations were made to make NPCs feel more real. Character art, more stuff for a CitizenCon presentation. I mean Pyro, sorry. They're more importantly working on what sounds like a dedicated salvaging backpack. So salvaging, still in progress, making props for it. That's always a decent sign, I guess. Ship art. The whole A, this is all from the UK side. Cockpit is finished, dashboard's finished, and they're working on some lighting. Scorpius, most of the exterior is in final art, which we saw in ISC last week, along with the whole A as well. Banu Merchantman is approaching white box complete, which is cool. Drake Vulture is through final art. It's on LOD passes, so it should be pretty close to making it in. Hopefully with its actual mechanics as well, which would be salvaging. Corsair is on final art cockpit for the cockpit and the mess hall. Then gameplay features is not as dead of a section as it usually is, and it's kind of exciting. They're obviously working on a refueling ship to ship, as we will see in ISC later. But the one that is big for me is loot generation for pocket items and NPCs, and the ability for the mission team to control what's in them. So certain NPC types may have certain cool items. This is the type of stuff that makes a repetitive mission system like we have now not be as repetitive and have some value to the player, which is really good. So I like that. They've also touched on some engineering gameplay that we saw a long time ago on a Calling All Devs with Dan Truffin. Lastly, the current progress on selling and more reputation gameplay improvements. They're currently working on those things and gearing up for the cargo refactor. So all those things are still being worked on and have not like hit that we aren't gonna make a date kind of situation just yet. Vehicle features, they mostly touch on Gravlev here, so not that big of a deal, but then they are also probably working in tandem with the engineering gameplay stuff to figure out how they want to improve resource networks like fuel, power, and heat through ship pipes. Remember the ship pipe system, stuff like that. UI, this is quite a hefty update here as well. As we will see momentarily, they worked on a very cool refueling UI, more star map work, which I think we all hope is better, and the next one is very, very important to everyone. They're working on all sorts of different markers, but the most important thing that they're working on is not what they look like, it's making sure they work within the system that we would all call server meshing. When things are streamed in, things are streamed out, right? We have SSOCS issues with them now, which would be, you know, the like, have you ever died and lost your marker for your party? I believe this is the work that is meant to resolve those issues. So fingers crossed on that stuff. And they also worked on the now delayed hacking UI. Vehicle tech, this is the last thing for the monthly report that we're going to talk about. Improving radar and scanning, the most important aspect being getting better feedback results, so that should be kind of cool. The idea is for this to be fun, and currently the system isn't very fun. It's quite tedious and frustrating. And it's also to make doors and ramps function better. If you've ever had issues with those before, there should be some work going into that. That is the monthly report. We obviously skipped over a few things. You can check out the full monthly report with the link in the description. I usually skip over the graphics, UI, graphics, VFX, and like the more technical stuff that is just something I can't explain, so I usually don't hear. Then moving on to video updates, we had an ISC, and the first thing they do is justify the need for refueling. So let's hear what they have to say.
Until now, ships were pretty much able to get fuel out of the thin air, and that was not the goal for all ships. That was supposed to be something very specific to certain ships that have that functionality. Right now, all of the ships that, let's say, are basic fighter ship, they're not going to have that functionality. They will have to rely on someone bringing fuel to them.
So if you look at the fuel design document from years ago, you will see single-seaters are not really meant to recoup any hydrogen fuel like they do now. And some people look at this as you will always need to bring fuel to them and not use a station. I just don't think that this is the case. So if we do use this feature over stations, how would it work?
In our first iteration of refueling right now, we sadly don't have the quantum beacon set up yet. So if you run out of fuel, you ask for someone in chat who owns a Starfarer to come by and refuel you. This person with a Starfarer needs to get fuel from any station.
Instead of buying it into the ship's fuel tank, you buy it into the Starfarer's fuel pods, which can be filled either with quantum fuel or hydrogen fuel, depending on whatever is the need on the market.
We do this through the current service app that we have updated. So the same way you used to repair and refuel your ships before, now you will have some extra controls that will let you decide what goes inside a fuel tank.
Once you have purchased the fuel and you want to adjust the price that the others have to pay for the fuel that you have in your Starfarer now.
At this point, the refueler player has to fly all the way to where the person is stranded, in the middle of nowhere, and the docking operation can begin.
Docking complete. Engines offline.
Once they have docked with you, they use the same MobiClass interface to make a request for fuel.
All right, to start, I think the inability to use a beacon is a problem, but it was said on SCL, actually, that this was recorded in November, so hopefully we'll have that on the release of the actual system. Another issue, which should be a temporary one, is that you cannot refine it yourself, and you will have to buy the fuel. But the new UI looks really awesome, and the payment system is even cooler, so let's touch on that a little bit more.
We're introducing something called an escrow service that basically takes the money for the transaction and only starts paying it out as the transaction advances. So if for whatever reason you either cancel the transaction or pirates show up and you have to do an emergency undock, there should be no money loss as fuel is paid for as it is dispensed.
So this entire system for me is a nice step for players in the game, and hopefully they can start using those features in other ways for us to buy and sell things from each other, right? I think that would be really good. But again, I personally don't see the point right now for refueling, but then they kind of gave us one.
As we keep delving further and further into other solar systems, we do not want to create this gamey thing where there's always fuel for everything. There's always everything you need.
You might end up in systems where there is nothing. There is no civilization at all, there are no stations, there are not even people.
Whoa, that's funny. They actually sound like they're describing Stanton, because Stanton's pretty empty as well. But jokes aside, they're on this road to Pyro grind, and if the lore is correct here, there won't be much infrastructure there at all. So we're going to need the tools to create our own, and this is just one of those tools. So, yeah. Next, they just went on to try to sell a hover ship for some reason that isn't being sold, so yeah. And then SCL was the next thing that was up, and it was just about graphics. So the main takeaway here is that they're 100% working on the Gen 12 renderer, and other priorities will come after, and that their goal is to have most clients play the game at 60 FPS, and that some of their work will improve server performance by utilizing some more cores. For other updates, there was a sneak peek, and mark my words, it's the same visuals that will be shoved down our throats for a year, like the homesteads last year, for their road to Pyro. So Pyro stations, interiors, exteriors, all that stuff, we'll see them at CitizenCon, but I doubt they'll be on our clients in 2023. They had an impromptu refueling Q&A as well. Somebody made a post and a dev responded to a few questions. The only ones that I thought were that weren't super obvious and that should be shared with you guys are these. So it cannot refuel itself through the pods yet. It can be refueled obviously by another Starfarer, and all ships will be updated to work with refueling on day one. Other things that were like, you can sell the fuel for free if you wanted. So as an org, you can buy the fuel and give it to your friends, and it will not affect like the amount of fuel in a ship versus not how your ship flies yet, because that's the vehicle experience team, I think, that needs to work on that stuff. There was a post about the Razor LX and EX being fixed. Again, this was a response to somebody else saying that they flew really bad in 317. They will not fly bad in atmosphere. So that is a big fix there. Jumptown stats. This was a pretty cool little infographic showing some leaderboards for people absolutely going off there and everything. It was neat. Xeno Threat, there's a bunch of posts and silly sales to celebrate the 27th go at Xeno Threat. Many of the events are still bugged, and you have to hop servers to find one that isn't. And for me, it's very, very scripted. So every time you do the event, it basically feels exactly the same. So I, for one, would just kind of like to see Xeno be put on the shelf for a little bit until there are tools to make it more unique, or tools to tie in players interacting with each other a bit more. I think the cargo section is cool, but again, it is exactly the same every time. They're always looking for the same amount of things, and yeah, it's always the same. So again, it's pretty repetitive. By the way, all of the posts that were shared will be linked in the description, but nothing really exciting to share from them since the last event, because nothing much has changed. By the way, the one thing that hasn't changed is they haven't added any new armor to the rewards for it. So there's no arms and no legs yet, which is kind of weird to me. So I don't know. And the last thing is the lore post. So they're just keeping that pushing for Pyro theme out there, and this is a lore post on it. And yeah, that'll be it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Try to be civil in the comments down below about the roadmap thing. A lot of people do disagree with me, think I didn't go hard enough on them. Like, I'm just me. I'm just going to share my opinions. I don't do anything for any other reason other than to put my opinions out there, see what you guys think about them, and that's really it. I'm not like some dancing monkey that has to act a certain way for you because my name is a certain thing. So guys, make sure you leave a like, comment down below, subscribe for more weeks in review, and yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.